The following is a paid commercial program paid for by American Real Estate Investments, LLC, and does not reflect the opinions or advice of KRLD or Intercom Media Corporation.
Are you wanting to invest in real estate? Get your cowboy hat on and let's talk passive income investing in the real estate market in North Texas. Here's your experts, John Larson and Johnny Collins, and your host, Amanda Guerra.
Hi, good morning. A very good Sunday morning to you. Hope you're having a good day so far. Welcome to the Real Estate Cowboy Radio Show. I'm Amanda Guerra along with John Larson and Johnny Collins. And our goal of this show is to teach you, of course, everything you need to know about real estate investing. What is your return on life? That is our theme here. So the topic this week, we're going to be talking about private money lending, specifically lending with personal funds or inside your retirement account. And John, this kind of bounces on what we did last week with self-directed IRAs and different things like that. So this private money lending is really a great option.
Yeah, it really is. It's like I said, it's probably the most passive option that we have for our investors. With private money lending, you know, our team's never going to call you and say, hey, your investor, your roof needs to be replaced or your air conditioning unit went out. Send us a check for $4,000.
Sure.
Private money lending is just a much, much more passive model. Essentially, you're just being the bank. And if we all know in any deal, who really has the least amount of risk in any deal, it's usually the bank. So a lot of our investors like to go that private money lending route. Even if they are single-family home investors, they still like to diversify in that private money lending option. And just kind of piggybacking off of what we spoke with Ben Williams last week, who's our Real Estate Cowboys self-directed IRA and 401k expert, he brought up private lending as well. And he does a lot of his investors that end up self-directing their retirement account like to go that hard money, private money lending route.
Yeah, and I think it's also very important to mention that just because it's private money doesn't mean that it doesn't fall under some type of oversight. So from my perspective, from a title perspective, we treat private money like public money. We treat all the money the same in terms of making sure that everybody has their I's dotted and their T's crossed. So I think people need to know that. A lot of times, there are certain people that reference back to the 80s where everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket, and even in the mid-2000s with a lot of creative financing. I have the air quotes up right now. And that's not necessarily the case here. This is very specific, very controlled, and very organized in terms of the way that you all set it up.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, elaborate a little bit more on your role in the process. So we've done a lot of single-family residential land developments in Texas. Houston is where we're really focused on
Probably individually,
lately.
You guys have probably done thousands with us by now. Would that be fair?
Exactly. Yeah, so you guys, you open escrow for us. That's where money starts to be placed until we get to the closing table. Because obviously, when you're raising millions of dollars for a project,
Sure.
right, you don't get that $1 million in day one. Sometimes it takes us 60 to 90 days to get that money fully raised for an opportunity that we're presenting to the public. You, as Community National Title, what is your guys? Elaborate a little bit more on what that role is.
Yeah. And without getting into great detail, just kind of give you a very high-level explanation. Obviously, when we start to collect money and we open up an escrow account for a client, that's exactly what we do. We are making sure that the money is secure, and we are making sure that along with that money, there are some instructions that have been agreed upon by the parties that are involved. So what normally happens is a person like John will come along and say, hey, I have a deal here. I also have, Bob, just as an example, who's going to provide the money. So John and Bob have basically agreed to a written contract. That written contract calls for you to put so much money into escrow. We'll receive that money, open up an escrow account. We will secure it within that escrow account. And from there, we will follow the instructions of the contract. So if the contract says that over the next, every 5 days, you will release so much money from Bob to John so that he can go out and purchase more property along the way, we're going to do that. Depending on what type of deal it is, and you guys have done obviously a multitude of different kinds. It may be a residential development where you're buying it, you're tranching the money and buying the land in pieces. So it may take you a year to acquire all of the land, so that money will sit in escrow and be used as needed, and we will only release the money according to what the contract tells us to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Sometimes people feel like, once I put all the money in escrow, it's gone. No, it's not gone. you gave us some instructions when you sent your money to escrow. You told us exactly what to do with it and how to treat it. And as a title agency, as an escrow company, that's the way we're going to treat it based on your instructions. And there's so much more to it, because even after that, there may be a 3 or 4 phase closing process to where, maybe you're just acquiring the property at first. Maybe you're acquiring the property, then you're building the actual asset or product on that land. So as you can see, there are a lot of different variations and a lot of different ways that this process can go. But just remember, that process is always going to be very well described and outlined and bullet point in some type of agreement or contract that we'll have as well.
Right, and so there's another piece of the puzzle, which is the commercial lender who's involved, who is drafting that contract and working with attorneys to make sure that all the disclosures are, we're following the law and everything's good to go there. And also, so all the previous deals that we've done before, we're actually going to have Bryan Grantham on the show here a little bit later, who's the commercial lender that loaned on these previous projects that actually you opened escrow for, and some projects down in Houston and in the Woodlands specifically. And so he can talk a little bit more about his role in the process. Because, I'm not licensed to do that, right? Yeah. I'm just the developer. I bring the deal to the table. It's a good deal. I have to send that to Bryan. He has to look that deal over. He takes that through a ton of compliance before we even offer this to anybody.
Well, that's why I like working with you all, from a title perspective. I think we set expectations amongst one another very early on in the process. And, usually it's my idea to say this, but I'll give you credit. It was your idea, and it was basically stated that everybody will stay in their lane.
Right.
We're going to find the assets. We're going to prepare the assets and make sure they're pretty. Johnny and Community National Title, y'all protect it and do what you do from a title perspective. And then whoever the lender is that's involved, we're going to make sure that they just have the money ready and we protect everything. Everybody stays in their lane. Everybody plays a role, and we do it very well together. So I'm appreciative of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like you said, we're going to talk to Bryan Grantham coming up, a commercial broker, delve more into this. In the meantime, we would like you to go to radio.com, favorite our podcast there. So for some reason you can't sit with us for the entire show while you're driving or sitting at home with your cup of coffee, go to radio.com. You can favorite us, the Real Estate Cowboys radio show. And coming up next, we'll talk to Bryan.
Did you know there are 6 different ways real estate pays investors? Are you interested in getting started with real estate investing but just don't know how? Investing in real estate can be challenging, especially if you don't have the time, experience, or resources to do so. At American Real Estate Investments, they do all the hard work for you. They're a DFW-based company that buys homes in great neighborhoods, professionally renovates them, and places business professional tenants in your property. With their program, you can start earning headache-free passive income and equity growth from appreciating values in the fast-growing DFW market. There is no better place in America to invest in real estate today. To learn more about how their investors are earning up to 100% returns or greater with their program, give them a call at 888-323-AREI or visit their website at areiusa.com. That's 888-323-AREI or areiusa.com.
All right, welcome back to the Real Estate Cowboys radio show. Hope you guys are having a good day so far. This morning we are talking about private lending, specifically when it comes to real estate. And joining us now, or John, I'll let you introduce him. Bryan Grantham is part of the Real Estate Cowboys team.
Yeah, very happy to have a commercial mortgage broker here with us today. His name is Bryan Grantham. He's also a member of the Real Estate Cowboys team. Bryan has 12 years real estate and lending experience, and he's placed over $500 million in various deals, so he comes with a wealth of knowledge. Bryan, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wow, Bryan, $500 million worth. That's a lot.
It's been a while. It's been a long time.
So, Bryan, let's just start from a very big picture point of view. What is private lending for people that are listening to the show and have no idea what private lending opportunities are?
Private lending, the technical term that I'd say the kind of old school guys know it by is trust deed investing or first trust deed investing. Essentially, when you invest into a private lending investment or a deed of trust or a trust deed, you're simply just investing into a loan. You're becoming a lender and investing into the funding of a real estate project. It could be commercial build, it could be a house flip, any form of various real estate investing. But you become the lender, just like a lender would be in any other type of mortgage, but instead of it being Bank of America or Wells Fargo funding these loans, it's you as an individual funding these loans through or secured by a deed of trust or a promissory note that's secured by the deed of trust, recorded through title at the county, just like any mortgage, has the full title policy, property insurance. So it's essentially you just becoming the bank.
So it's the full gamut of security then.
100%, yes. As a licensed commercial mortgage broker, I have to do this, again, just like any mortgage transaction, through title, recorded title insurance. You can't just come in and just, here's $20,000 cash. It has to come from somewhere, wired into title. The money never touches the mortgage broker. So it's done just like any other mortgage transaction.
Well, I love your description. I kind of want to just elaborate a little bit on the deed of trust part. John and I were kind of talking about it off air before we got back on. And I was, just kind of going through the fact that the deed of trust is actually what collateralizes the money with the property, or vice versa, the property with the money. And I think so many people don't realize just how important that is within a real estate transaction that requires money.
And so, Bryan, can you elaborate a little bit on, so me as a developer, or anybody out there that's a developer, I know you work with developers and things like that who are seeking private money lending opportunities. What is your role in the process? How are you? Do you actually vet these deals out before you present them to these parties who are looking to take advantage of private lending? Just explain a little bit more of what your role as a commercial mortgage broker is.
Yeah, my role is essentially it's a full compliance and vetting process. So I don't actually necessarily represent the developer. I represent the investors. So the developer would come to me with a potential project. My job is to vet that project from a few different perspectives. One is the deal good, meaning is the borrower going to actually make money on that project? Not just is it good for the lender? A deal can look good from a lender perspective, but if it's not good for the borrower, that's not necessarily a good deal. You want to make sure it's good for all parties. So my first job is to go in and vet this deal from the perspective of, is the deal a good deal for the borrower, for the lender, for myself as a broker? Is it something that I want to carry on my license? Once the vetting process is done and the deal makes sense, then I negotiate, between the investor or the lender and the developer, the terms and conditions and rates and so forth, and then take the project through the entire title process. So I'll set up title, communicate with the title company and those escrow officers to make sure that it is properly recorded, make sure that the money is safely in where it's supposed to be and recorded by that deed of trust, which I actually draw up. With me and my attorneys, we do draw up the deed of trust, the promissory note in-house. And so we provide that to the title company as well as the escrow instructions. So we are kind of running point on making sure that this transaction is complete and done compliantly within state and federal laws. At the same time, we take it beyond that step as well. Unlike a traditional mortgage broker where they kind of broker a transaction and then they're able to just kind of walk away, in a conventional mortgage, we have a servicing agreement or a mortgage broker agreement rather with our investors that we carry this loan with us. So we're there with our investors from day one until the end of the investment through setting up their loan servicing, which is a third party, essentially, for lack of a better word, a debt servicing. That this third party will collect the debt payments and make sure those payments are dispersed to the individual investors. As well as in a development project, there would be voucher control or construction control. Funds are never loaned to the borrower. They are loaned through or wired into another, essentially, escrow account with a voucher control company that pays the invoices. So it's my job to essentially make sure all of this is set up through the entire process, as well as providing the investors with their copy of the promissory note, the deed of trust, the final title policy, so they actually have record and are holding that deed of trust that shows them recorded on it. As it was said, that is the most important piece there, that you are actually recorded on that deed of trust, because that is your security and your,
absolutely.
That's what collateralizes that piece of property. Without that, you're just throwing your money out and hoping it comes back.
Okay. So it sounds to me like you're pretty much involved the whole way through until these investors are paid back, correct?
Yes, all the way through the reconveyance process. So I work with the investors once the loan pays back to make sure that the payoff is reviewed and it is correct, and then eventually getting the investors' money back to them.
Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, it sounds to me that if I'm a private money lender or someone that's interested in that opportunity, it's great to be working with a guy like Bryan because he's carrying me through the whole process, right? Yeah. I'm just a guy that has some capital that, hey, I'd like to get a fixed rate of return on my money. It sounds passive, sounds good. I looked at the deal as well. Seems like a pretty safe deal. But then it's good and comforting to know that you got an expert there that's kind of holding your hand throughout the process. And so, Bryan, another thing I want to ask. So I'm a private money lender, and let's say the deal that I'm lending on, it's like a 24-month term. Am I going to be getting updates throughout the process of where we're at with the development, how soon we are to selling that investment off, right, to where I could be making my money back? How does that whole process work in terms of getting updates?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. If you're working with a broker that cares about you as an investor and cares about retaining you and having you invest with them on future deals, yes, you would receive at least a quarterly update. Some projects are longer term. If it's a 2-year project, first 90 days, maybe 6 months, there might not be a whole lot of movement, but at least updates. I typically do updates with pictures, with info from the borrower, with if it's a development project with let's say it's a development that has residential land. You're subdividing lots. Mm-hmm. At some point, there's lots that are selling. There is movement. There's things happening. So yes, you should and you should expect or request those updates. I don't think it's a wise idea to invest and be left blind. Sure. I absolutely would give updates and would recommend it.
Yeah, and if I'm going to be lending on a land development or something like that, let's call it a single-family residential land development, I'd like to see some photos, a drone flyover or something, at least seeing some roads being put in there, and then eventually I'd like to see some houses being built on the land, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, that to me is outside of a fixed interest rate and a pretty secure, safe investment. That's probably the most important reason that people invest in these types of deals is consistency and predictability, and they can put their money to work and they know they're getting decent rates. Oftentimes above market rates consistently. Right. That's probably the most important thing, or the most important reason why people invest in this. It's safe and it's predictable. Outside of that, it's fun to see your money go into a development project that you could actually fly out, go watch the phases go and watch it. You could go daily and go look at it.
Right.
To see your money go to work and actually put people to work. And, that to me is exciting. That's where I get the rush, is I go out and I see what my money's doing. And it's not just in some stock market where you've got, GM using your money and it's just, you don't know what it's doing. The rich are getting richer. You can actually see your money work. There's something exciting about it.
You're hoping it's going well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So another thing I'd like to ask, this show is all about passive income, passive income real estate investment opportunities. So you, as the commercial mortgage broker, would you say, someone listening to this show, that private lending could be a really good option for the investor looking to build a passive income stream?
Yes, that's the most common investor that I have, is someone who is nearing retirement, or they're looking for some kind of an income, whether it's cash or retirement account or what have it. Passive income is a huge driving point. It's to investing in this. You have a retirement account that's sitting there that to access those funds in a current or a traditional portfolio, you probably have to sell some of your assets.
Gotcha. And here we're about to wrap up here shortly, but how many clients would you say, you talked about self-directed retirement accounts, and we touched on that last week. How many of your clients would you say are loaning out of a self-directed account? A good portion?
Probably 75 to 80% are retirement accounts.
Yeah, that's higher than I thought, but it makes sense because you're putting that money back in tax-free. But all right, Bryan, I appreciate the time. I think you gave a lot of good info here, and appreciate you having on. You come with a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Bryan.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right, Bryan, thank you so much. And that was a lot of great information about private money lending. If you like what you heard, if you just want to learn more about this, make sure to check out our website, realestatecowboysdfw.com. We have a lot more great content coming up. Keep it right here.
Looking to complete a 1031 tax-deferred exchange and are needing financing for your replacement properties? Let Graham Parham at Highlands Residential Mortgage guide you through the process and make your 1031 exchange go smoothly and on time. As a seasoned investor, Graham owns several investment properties himself, and he can share with you the best way to plan your exchange. Graduate into a better property or properties and make use of leverage to obtain better cash flow and higher returns on investment. Highlands Residential Mortgage has one of the best in-house loan processes to deliver your loan on time and without any surprises. We are 1031 exchange friendly. Call Graham's toll-free direct number today at 855-326-6802 for your free mortgage consultation, or visit us online at texasinvestorloans.com. Highlands is an equal opportunity lender, NMLS 195724, located 1201 North Central Expressway, Dallas, Texas, 75234. Highlands Residential Mortgage, NMLS 134871, is not a financial advisor.
The following program has been paid for by American Real Estate Investments, LLC. All opinions expressed on this program are solely the opinions of American Real Estate Investments, LLC, and do not reflect the opinions of KRLD or Intercom Media Corporation. You should not treat any opinion expressed on the program as a specific inducement to follow a particular strategy regarding real estate financing or investment. And before acting on information on the program, you should seek advice from your own financial, tax, mortgage, or real estate advisor.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Cowboys radio show. We just got done talking to Bryan Grantham, a commercial broker, specifically about private lending and then when it comes to real estate. And this is something that both John and Johnny, you guys are really passionate about.
Very
you
much so.
really believe in this. I mean, like we talk a lot here on the show, it's all about what is your return on life. And this is a way to get a great return on life.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I know people that have invested, millions of dollars, passively in restaurants, in hotel chains for them to buy the real estate. And, they collect a monthly check, and it's a substantial monthly check. And, some of them are younger, some of them are older, but more importantly, all of these people have created a passive stream of revenue. And if they choose to, they can live off of it if that's what they want to do. And look, everything that you do passively is not going to be enough to, pay all your bills, but it's a start. If it pays just your car note, if it pays just your water bill, you're in the game. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And so private lending, it's hard money, right? Yeah. And you're able to charge a higher interest rate for that than what you'd get at a traditional bank. So I think it's a great investment opportunity if you're someone that's sitting on a couple $100,000, don't know what to do with it. Maybe you got it in, the stock market or the traditional investments that we've talked about. And this is just another alternative investment that's available to you, especially for people that do have, an IRA or 401k and money sitting in an account. And we talked last week about self-directing and what you can do with self-directed funds. And yes, you can buy real estate, but I really advocate the private money lending option through an IRA or 401k because I think it's the most passive model, and I think it's really, if you're investing in the right market and the right project, it's super safe.
Yeah, but that's with any product. It doesn't matter what you do. It has to be the right thing. And I think another thing that we should just touch on a little bit, John, is the people that are using this money. It's not the mafia. It's not Vegas.
Yes.
For many different reasons, people use private money. Maybe they're a new business, but a very profitable business, right? And what Bryan just told us is they're going to do all of the due diligence to make sure that the deal is worth it, because they're not going to put anybody's money into a situation where there's going to be a loss, at least not on the front end, because then they don't make any money. So, it's in everybody's best interest for the private money to make a lot of money. And if not, it becomes a waste of time. So I'm appreciative of guys like him that get into this and make sure that everything is above board, that make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and done in a very professional manner, like you're walking into one of the big banks or even mid-sized banks. It's pretty much the same process.
So let's give folks an example of this. Let's talk about the return. What are they going to see? What could they get involved in? Some projects.
Yeah, I mean, I know people. There's deals available out there where that'll pay you 12%. Now, with any investment, right, higher returns usually means higher risk, right? So someone that's offering to pay 12% interest on their project, it might not be in the best market. You got to kind of do your due diligence, which that's what Bryan does, right? you do your due diligence on the borrower. Do your due diligence on the opportunity that they have, right? And what I tell a lot of investors is, hey, if they're offering you 12 or 15%, you need to take a close look at that deal, because that means they're very desperate for money.
Sure, very
right?
much so.
So there was a deal, for example, that we did down in Houston. It's still going. The builders are building on the lots right now. It's a 500 lot development down in the Woodlands in Houston. I think Bryan, we're paying 8.5% on that money. That's also on a project that, to me, Johnny, which is why I got the project in the first place, I looked at it as being very safe, right? Houston, good market. Texas, very strong. Lots of new people moving in. So there's a very, very huge, strong demand for single-family homes.
Good markets, lots of people moving in, great school districts, a lot of stuff to do, more companies coming. I mean, all the variables are lining up. I fortunately and unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to invest in deals that had, high rate of returns. And those that weren't real estate went to hell in a handbasket. And I didn't have anything that was really solid collateral, right? So we always talk about, the best case scenario. Let's talk about worst case scenario. Worst case scenario and the deal goes to hell in a handbasket. Well, you still have some property that was evaluated on the front end to be able to pay back, the money. And that's what's important, because your money is collateralized by the property. And I think we can't lose sight, of that. That's the one, although not guaranteed, but very much so protective measure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want to avoid a foreclosure, right? I mean, no one wants to go through that process. It's costly. It can be, lengthy, and
it's stressful too.
Oh, so I'm from Detroit, Michigan originally, and although there's good opportunities in every market, I just wouldn't say there's as many good opportunities in Detroit for their private money lending opportunities and developments and things like that. It's just not as strong of a market as Dallas is. So that goes back to, why are we doing the Real Estate Cowboys radio show? We're talking about ways to make passive income through real estate, but we're also talking about the best market in America.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on in the DFW area right now is unmatched anywhere else in the country. And we can't lose sight of the reason why a lot of these big organizations and corporations are moving here daily. They're moving here because of the opportunity. They're moving here because of the caliber of the educated people that are here. They're moving here because of the pool of money that's gathered here as well. So you're talking right, John. And what you all have done in terms of putting the energy and efforts into pinpointing a lot of these deals that are here and available for folks to be a part of, I think is phenomenal. And we need to make sure that folks understand really what the opportunity is. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And another thing that I was kind of a little bit shocked, not really, but a little bit shocked, Bryan said that he would say 80% of his clients are loaning out of a self-directed account. And the reason why I was a little shocked by that is because we talked last week about, retirement accounts, money in retirement accounts, $18 trillion in retirement accounts, and only 3 to 4% of that money is in self-directed accounts. And I believe that that's because people just don't know that you can self-direct.
Sure.
But, from talking to people, I'm out and about. I was out to dinner one time, and I was just at the bar eating dinner, and I was talking to another gentleman next to me. I like to strike up conversation, just see what these people are investing in. And he turned to me and he said, hey, I have $1 million in a self-directed IRA. And he goes, my best investment that I have going right now is I have probably a guy like Bryan Grantham, that's putting my money to use in private lending.
Yeah.
And putting it into real estate deals for private lending. And he's like, I just trust the guy. He vets the deals out. They're shorter term. I think he was telling me most of the stuff was about a year long term. And then when he gets that money paid back, he's just putting it in the next deal.
John, I personally invest. I don't know if I tell you this. I personally invest with a gentleman who's a hard money lender. And, I get 10% a year.
Yeah. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I forget about it.
Right,
I just kind of...
Until you look at your account,
there it is.
And so, like I was saying, it's a great option for that self-directed retirement account because you save on taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
That money's coming back in tax-free. So, really, like I said, I don't know much of a better option. I'm a real estate guy. I love real estate. I love buying single-family homes. I love owning single-family homes and all the opportunities that you have with real estate and homes. But... like I said, I'm never going to call you if you're doing a private money lending opportunity with me and say that you need to replace your roof and send me a check for $4,000. And if you're talking about your retirement account, if you buy real estate, we talked about this early on in the first episode, if you're buying real estate within your retirement account, your retirement account owns that real estate property.
Yeah.
So when the property manager does call you and say you have to replace the AC unit, that's coming out of your retirement account.
Sure.
You know? And so I'm not saying it's a negative, but it's just something that you need to understand. There's that risk involved with it.
Yeah. You're not saying that it's a positive either, right? You're just saying it's a part of it, but it's not the same as just doing that in your own personal account.
Exactly. So, Amanda is saying that we're coming close to wrapping up here.
You guys love these topics because you guys can talk about it all day. That's the great thing. Yeah, we do need to take a quick little break here, but we have some really good questions from people specifically talking about private lending and real estate and stuff and just kind of the DFW market. We have a few questions about DFW investing specifically, which of course you guys are experts on. So in the meantime, make sure to check out our website, realestatecowboysdfw.com. There's a great test on there that you can take if you've never invested before in real estate. You want to know what kind of investor you are. You can take a quiz on there. Also, make sure to go to radio.com, favorite our podcast, so you can always come back to it, listen to the segments individually. Maybe you're just now joining us so you can hear what we've been talking about previously in the show. We'll be right back.
Attention beach lovers, discover how affordable it can be to own a luxury beach home or your own private island in breathtaking Belize. The New York Times recently rated Placencia, Belize as one of the top places to visit. It is possible to own a luxury villa, condo, or a private island for a fraction of the cost you might think. Belize is becoming one of the top places for Americans to retire abroad. It is full of majestic beauty from the beaches to the mountains and the Barrier Reef. Find out how their islands came to be featured on HGTV's Island Hunters and how you can leverage your retirement funds to own a piece of paradise. If you've ever considered owning a luxury beach home or your own private island, contact American Real Estate Investments today to learn more or book a trip to see for yourself on one of their upcoming Discover Belize tours. Space on these tours is limited. Call today, 214-669-6106, or visit the website at areibelize.com.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Cowboys radio show. Hope you guys are having a good weekend so far. This is the time of the show where we take some questions from our listeners. So Karen C., she lives in Dallas. She says she and her husband are just now starting to look into the real estate market. They want to get a couple rental homes, or at least their first one, she says. And they want to know if there's specifically an area, a DFW, that you feel is better to look at.
That's a good question.
It really is, and it's a pretty broad question. It's going to depend on what their goals are.
Yeah.
Number one, I'd ask them, can you qualify for a Fannie Mae loan? The 20% down, fixed for 30 years, low interest loan. If you can, and you're looking at potentially seeing returns of upwards of 100% on your money, I would invest in an appreciating area, a strong appreciating area of Dallas. And so that's where I would start looking in, probably the North Dallas suburbs. Maybe in East Plano, West Plano, the values are just too high. You need to look at the value to rent ratio as well anytime you're investing in a rental property. So I still feel like there's really good opportunities in East Plano. There's good opportunities in Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Richardson, if you can get your hands on them. That's the biggest problem right now in this market.
You have to move fast.
You really do. But those are the areas that with putting 20% down on a property, let's say it's $250,000, $300,000, you're not going to necessarily cash flow on the investment once you put, you add a principal and interest payment into it. But you're leveraging the property. So on a $250,000 asset, you're putting down $50,000. In this market today, these properties are appreciating $50,000, $60,000 in 2, 3, 4 years, right?
Yes.
If the trend keeps going the way it is, that's how you're going to get 100% return on your money, because you could, in turn, sell that property, liquidate that property, sell it to a retail home buyer down the line who's going to pay you market value for that home, or maybe you do a cash-out refinance.
And John, it's important for you to kind of just, let them know, too, that as long as people keep moving in, we're going to always have a shortage.
Right.
So there's always going to be a need for someone to buy your home. So when you get ready to sell, there should always be a buyer that's kind of willing and ready and able to buy.
Absolutely. And that's why I really like to target these North Dallas and even East Dallas suburbs, because I just see a lot of the development moving north and east right now.
Yeah.
And it's just those areas are very, very attractive.
Johnny, is there anywhere that you like, or maybe you think is a hidden gem, a secret, and we're going to let the secret out of the bag, but that's what we're here for.
Mansfield, Arlington.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. So I'm from that area. I'm originally from Fort Worth, and even Fort Worth, there are some absolutely amazing areas, the Crowley area, where you can go find some just flat out steals. And if you know the DFW area well, a lot of people don't like to go, on the other side of 635. That are north, and then the southern folk don't like to come on the northern side of 635. So, it just depends on your preference. And I always say, to the original question, it's just a matter of what you're looking for. Does that make sense? If you want something that you can hold for a long time, make sure you get in an area where the school systems are really strong, or the grocery stores, and there are a lot of things that are available to the client.
Right. And I would say that's a good point that you just brought up. Some investors might be thinking maybe I don't want that particular neighborhood. You got to think about what are these properties going to do for you. You're not going to live there.
No.
Okay. So you got to keep in mind, this is an investment. I'm not living here, but you're right. You want to make sure you're in a thriving area, an area where there's development, an area where there's, grocery stores and retail and things like that are readily available, and good schools, like you said, because good schools mean that families are always going to want to live there. So that's where you're going to set yourself up for potentially a long-term tenant, or you're going to have consistent low vacancy, right? Because these things don't work unless you have people moving into the property and paying you rent, right?
Yeah,
somebody
absolutely.
willing to pay you rent.
Well,
so that's my advice.
Well, I think it's great advice, John. I'll tell you this. I get really excited when we talk about these types of things because, real estate, based on our conversation, is just a vehicle. It's a cash flow vehicle. And, we've had a measure of success in business. So, we get these type of opportunities all the time. But what do we tell the person that's not necessarily getting approached about a lot of these opportunities? What are they supposed to do right now? I think it can be a bit discouraging when you feel like the money and the opportunities are just volleying over your head. Well, I want to speak to those people today. First thing I want to tell you is don't give up. Okay? The second thing I want to tell you is there is a place for you to participate, in the American free trade system. But you cannot give up. It's so funny because I see how so many people come into our country and they literally risk their life just for a shot to participate in the American free trade system. And what we're talking about is showing people how to just take advantage of it even the more. So I want to tell that person that right now, maybe your finances are not in a place to where you have a lot of money in a 401k, or maybe your finances and your personal financial situation is not one that you feel really good about talking about publicly or sitting down with somebody and getting direction. Well, I want to encourage you to go do that. The first thing you need to do is take the first steps into sitting down, getting organized financially, taxes, credit, learn what your DTI is, do the small things to make sure you can do big things later on down the road. And if you've been fighting and struggling for a long time, don't get discouraged. Just continue to fight, but fight with purpose. Don't fight out of habit. Don't fight out of a lack of opportunity. Don't fight out of lack in general. Fight with purpose. Sit down, find somebody, call somebody if you need some help. Contact us on the Real Estate Cowboys website, and we'll help point you in the right direction with some people that can sit down with you and help you kind of map out your financial agenda, your financial objectives, and kind of get a clear, concise objective of what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it. I think so many of us go about this alone, and we fail.
Yep.
Time and time again, we see so many situations where people go about it alone, and they fail. Well, you don't have to fail anymore. There's too much opportunity. There's too many people with great expertise and a ton of experience that can help you get from point A to Z in a very prolific, effective, and efficient manner. So take advantage of it, ladies and gentlemen. John and I are here not just to hear ourselves talk or to entertain one another. We're here to make sure that we bring consistent, recurring value to you. So if you don't use us, shame on you. But if you do use us, congratulations to you. And we look forward to hearing from you.
And if you guys just want to learn more about everything that John and Johnny talk about, we do encourage you. We have a link on the Real Estate Cowboys DFW website where you can go submit your own questions. You can just learn more about what Johnny and Johnny do about the real estate market and DFW in general. And real quick, John, next week is a big show, so I'm going to give you a little plug. So tell us what next week is all about.
Yeah, next week we're talking about some really cool stuff next week, some stuff that I'm really interested in. We're talking about vacation rentals. We have David Keener, who's a South Lake resident, Dallas resident. He's going to be here with us. He's my development partner down in Belize, and this guy's been on HGTV. for his private island developments, and just really, really cool stuff. And he's filled with tons of information, so really looking forward to that show.
Man, you look really excited talking about this.
You want me to get up and dance around?
You can talk about Belize. Who's not going to get excited?
I thought you were going to dance around.
And you guys have there is also a Real Estate Cowboys event coming up that we'd like you guys to go check out, specifically on Facebook, start to register for.
Yep, that is going to be May 8th, Tuesday, May 8th. We're serving you dinner. We're serving you some drinks. We're taking care of you, pampering you as always.
Dinner and drinks?
Yes, sir.
Did I pay for that?
That's going to be right here at the KRLD 1080 studio. So we have a performance ballroom right below us. That event is going to be great. That's going to be talking all about our vacation rental opportunities that we have in Belize. And the best way I could frame up Belize, imagine if you had the opportunity to buy property in Hawaii back in 1950. That's what we feel like we have down in Belize. So it's a really good show we got coming up and a really great event. You can go to bestofbelize.com to register for that event. Space is going to be limited. I think we're only accepting about 50 guests to that event. So if you're interested in learning more about the Belize opportunities that we have, private island developments, luxury homes, go to bestofbelize.com and put in your information to reserve your spot.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for sticking with us this morning, hanging out. Hopefully you learned something here. And in the meantime, make sure to head to our website, realestatecowboysdfw.com. Go to radio.com, favorite our podcast. If you missed anything on this show, you can find out more information there. Have a great week, guys.
Get your cowboy hat on and talk passive income investing in the real estate market in North Texas every Sunday morning at 8 here on KRLD with your experts, John Larson and Johnny Collins, and your host, Amanda Guerra.
The preceding was a paid commercial program paid for by American Real Estate Investments, LLC, and does not reflect the opinions or advice of KRLD or Intercom Media Corporation.